right. Noting that it's 7:02 p.m. on Wednesday, June 5th, 2024, I'll call the Board of Health meeting to order. And since it's a virtual meeting, first the board members who are present can announce so. So Daryl Beardsley present.
Diana Hook present.
Oh, and
Constantine
Steve
present.
Yep. Sorry. We usually go in alphabetical order. Forgot to tell you that.
Okay.
But it's not critical that we do that. And then I'll try to remember to ask, and someone else can jump in if I'm not remembering. If another board member joins, we'll ask them to just declare their presence. All right. So, Jessica, I don't recall seeing anything less than 48 hours in advance of this meeting that is urgent to add. Is that your
We do have one last minute food application that came in as a last minute ad, not reasonably anticipated, and that would be the Whoopie Wagon temporary food permit.
Ah, yes. How could I forget that name? Okay. So, all right. So we do have an item, not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance of this meeting for the Whoopie Wagon food permit. Does anyone have any other issues that have come to their attention as urgent? No? Okay. Then do we have a motion to add that item to the agenda? You're on mute, but.
So moved.
Okay.
Seconded.
All right. All in favor? And Steve, you could go first. Chair usually goes at the end.
Approved. Aye.
Diana Hook, aye.
Okay. And Daryl Beardsley, aye. All right. I see we have the food inspector here. So let's work on those. And actually, Jessica, should I stop sharing now because you've got those items lined up? If Tom needs to refer to them, I don't know if we need to review any of the paperwork, but.
It's up to Tom, but I'm happy to share if needed. I don't believe there was anything that we necessarily needed to share. Tom?
I think we're good.
Okay, so it looks like we've got the Whoopie, now I've already forgotten, Whoopie, whatever. And Pilgrim Church. And I know that there were more, but I'm not seeing them on the list. Am I missing something? Oh, wait, I'm not far enough down. There we go. Okay. All right, CNC ice cream, Papa Leah's wood-fired pizza, Nirvana Tea House, Not Your Mama's Cafe, and then, okay, the other's a camp. So anything in particular for any of these, Tom?
As far as the camp goes, Sweet Meadow Camp, they just got recently clearance from building and fire, so they should be good to go. I'm going to go back. I spoke to Jessica this afternoon and do a spot check at some point over the summer to check ratios to make sure they're in compliance with the counselor to camper ratios. And the temporary food permits appear all in order. I'm in correspondence with the various operators if we're in need of any additional documentation or menu information. So we're actively working on that.
Okay. Let's see. So then, all right, actually, Pilgrim Church is separate.
Yes, I was going to ask Darrell if we could also include that while Tom's here.
Okay.
Podium posting.
Okay, so we'll get back to that in a moment. Then let's take care of the food permits. So you're recommending the first four here for approval, subject to, do they have anything different? Subject to compliance with all applicable regulations, anything And receipt of paperwork in all cases, or you told me to?
Sure, that sounds fair.
Okay, hold on. I need to admit someone. All right. Sorry, so
Do you want me to make a motion, Daryl?
additional paper, I missed additional paperwork for all of them or just some?
So as far as the not reasonably anticipated whoopee wagon, I'm
Yes,
pretty sure in dealing with them previously that it's non-hazardous foods, but I'm going to just verify that to make sure that the filling is not a hazardous food, and if so, solicit more details on how they're going to maintain temperature control for that, and then if they are doing sampling, to have access to temporary hand washing facilities.
okay, so let's take that one separately since it is a little bit different of confirmation of other things. So do we have a motion to approve the permit for the whoopee wagon subject to completion of transfer of information to the food inspector for his review?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none? Steve, you can vote yay or nay on that permit. Or Diana, why don't you go first to
Why
set?
don't I go
Sorry.
first?
Yeah.
Yeah, Diana Hook, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Okay, Daryl Beardsley, aye. All right, and then for C&C Ice Cream, Papalia's Wood-Fired Pizza, Nirvana Tea House Cafe, and Not Your Mama's Vegan Cafe, do we have a motion to approve their temporary food permits subject to compliance with all applicable regulations?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none?
Diana Hook, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Daryl Beardsley, aye. And we'll come back to the farm in a moment. So, the camp rather. And so Pilgrim Church, Mark, do you want to?
Yes, we received a report that shows a sodium level. It should be on the agenda docs, but over the required level, where they need to post it. So with that said, they will be required to do a sodium posting. I believe they presently are doing a sodium posting for previous testing that we had through previous years. So it's just a formality that they continue to post the sodium levels.
Okay, and is that specifically in association with the kitchen that they have on site, or is it a general posting for anyone who chooses to
Posting, I remember when I used to
Taps.
inspect Pilgrim, I'm sorry, Daryl. I remember when I used to inspect, they would also put a posting near the drinking fountain. So general posting, might it be in the kitchen or at a drinking water fountain?
Okay, and so then really Tom doesn't need to weigh in specifically, but to be aware that that's
Yes.
continuing issue. Okay,
And I would ask that Tom just check that off as one of his items when he does his food inspections.
Sure, and that's also in the food code. So we'll make sure that that's being followed on a routine visit.
Thank you, Tom.
okay. And then do we have a motion to approve the permit for the summer camp at Sweet Meadow Farm? And any outstanding, sounds like you've already reviewed everything with that receipt of information from the fire department and building inspector?
Yeah, so I have nothing outstanding. Those are the only issues.
Okay,
In that case, so moved.
Seconded.
any further discussion? Hearing none?
Diana Hook, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
And Daryl Beardsley, aye. Now might be a good time to jump to one of the administrators' issues, which is the consent agenda for other business. Jessica, would you mind introducing the streamlining concept that we're going to try out?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much, Daryl and Tom and Mark, for those great explanations. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you all on the meeting this evening. As Daryl mentioned, I have come up with an idea to have a consent agenda for other business, similarly to the way that the select board operates with their meetings. For example, if we were to have other business such as the food permits, which actually under the code and under the food code and so under the food code, it is not necessary for the Board of Health to vote on every single application that comes in. Administratively, that's a task that we can approve internally. However, if we were to have an issue that requires board oversight, such as a specific variance for a food establishment or a HACCP plan or any other issue that requires special approval, of course, we would add that as an agenda item. But as per the permits for camps and food, as Tom and myself and Mark and Daryl review the application materials that come in, I believe it would be better to have one decision for said application materials under the other business.
Right, more like an endorsement of the reviews by the
Correct.
various inspectors that we have, because we do rely on their expertise, and it's really if there's something unusual, atypical, that the board gets more involved. And by bringing it up, even under a consent agenda, at least if anyone has any outstanding questions about any of the establishments, we could address it. Make it a little quicker rather than going through each one by one.
Typically, they're non-controversial items in this setting, which are passed with a single motion. And it is just much more efficient use of time for us as well.
Mm-hmm. And for the food inspector too, pending dropping into our meetings, etc. Okay. Great. Well, thank you, Tom. Anything else that you need to check in with us about?
No, other than obviously, just to reiterate what Jessica said, I'm obviously at the board's disposal if you do need me to come on here and offer explanation or context to a permit application or the status of a food establishment. I'm certainly ready and willing to report to you on whatever case that may be.
Okay. All right. So thank you. All right, back to the items. Since there are a number of people who might be interested in Farm Road homes, I'm going to jump to that because really what I'd like to do, because we do have quite a number of projects that are in the queue, as you can see later on this agenda list, and we'd like to take care of that. But our next meeting, because our regularly scheduled meeting fell on Juneteenth, it's July 17th would be the next meeting, and that's a long time to wait. We have other projects coming in that also need addressing, so I just wanted to check in with the board, and we have two people who will also need to take their schedules into consideration. But right now I was thinking of either the 17th, 18th, or 20th of June. Unfortunately, we are going to overlap with somebody's meeting by going off of our normal Wednesday, but it's hard to find any open days because everyone's been aligning with trying to find their slot. Yes?
If I may interject here briefly, I can speak on behalf of Ms. Julie Dreyfus, and
Okay.
she prefer in terms of her availability the last week of June.
Okay, that might be a little farther out only because I'm trying to, for our Title V review, I don't know that it's essential, but I would like to do it before the ZBA. Well, they won't be finished with their deliberations or issuance of their comprehensive permit, but Oh, I would prefer to do it before that last week. So, all right, so maybe we'll look at some more days or other things in between, but at least for the 17th, 18th, and 20th. So that would be the Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday of the week when we would have
And
had Wednesday.
Darryl, if
Yeah?
I can, Daryl, I do
Oh.
have a commitment on June 17th, but I'm open the other
Okay.
2 days.
Okay. So Diana and Steve, any issues with the 18th and the 20th? And then we may have to come up with more dates after that too.
No, I'm
good
fine
with
with
the
that.
18th. So am I. 18th,
Okay.
20th works well.
Okay, and 7 o'clock, usual time. All right. Okay. All right, more to come on that. Sorry, I thought maybe we'd be able to get closer to that. But all right, so, and then for Washington Street Homes, the ZBA has continued the hearing into early August, and we received a request as well for suspending essentially our work on the project. Question, Brian?
Hi, Brian Moore, 49 Farm Road. I just had a quick question. I'm a little confused about the scheduling for a permit when the 40B process hasn't worked through the ZBA as of yet. Is there a reason that this board, which seems to have like a lot on its plate already, is having additional meetings for Farm Road Homes? Is this at the request of the ZBA who's in deliberations at this point? Or
Oh,
is it
no, absolutely not. We
the applicant?
gave our information, but we did not have the peer reviewer report until 7 p.m. before the next night when they made their decision. So and so the Board of Health, received the information but could not convene a meeting to review it in time to present anything or to make our own final determination about Title V compliance. And so
Okay.
I would just like to close the loop on that obligation.
Okay, I wanted to make sure. I'm really sorry for interrupting your meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Reasonable question, but it's a administrative housekeeping measure in a way, and a regulatory issue. Okay. Anyone have any other questions about those topics? Otherwise, I think Mark has a whole lineup of people for various projects that we're going to be discussing. Okay, so Mark, unfortunately, I have to say, let's see if I remember who came. I really don't remember who came in first because it was pretty close together for everyone.
Well, we have, I see Deshang Wang here. He's representing 13 Mill Street.
Okay,
And we did receive a revised plan for 13 Mill Street. I think we can put it up on the board and the board can take a look at it.
Can we share the plan?
I'm not for sure if we already have it in our documents, Deshang, but
yeah, I do have.
and while you're doing that, Daryl, Deshang and I have been talking about the various parts of this plan. There's a minor issue that has to be, we went over the deficiencies last Thursday, and he was going to take care of them. There's one that wasn't taken care of, and he's going to reclassify the soils and the C2 level. At the same time, he did ask for a waiver on the plan, and I did explain to him there's a process if requesting a waiver. But in our discussion, I said to Shang, let the board take a look at it. He has 3 depots, 2 of the depots that are closest in surrounding the septic system show groundwater at 61 and 62 inches. The other depot, which is lower or away from the system by about 30 feet, 20 feet or so, is depot number 1. And if you enlarge it, you'll see depot number 1 is to the bottom left of where the soil absorption system is located. It's in the grading area, the required final grading, excuse me. And this pollen is driving me crazy. Sorry about that. And depot 2 is above that, and depot 3 is above that. And I told him that in my view, depot 1 is far enough away where I don't believe a waiver is needed. That's where groundwater was found with some faint models, so it's even questionable if it was groundwater in Deep Hole 1. So I was going to suggest to the board that the plan be approved, conditional to removing the waiver request based on what I just stated, and also updating the soil testing to reflect truly what was recorded in the field. And it would also require a garbage grinder deed recording. But I'll let the board look at it just to make sure you're okay with that decision that we've discussed. And Deishang's here if you have any questions as well.
Okay. Do any board members have any particular questions? Okay, I do have one.
Yep.
Right. Just want to
I've
check,
got one, Mark.
but I saw somebody else come
Yeah.
on.
That's fine.
Okay, I was just curious, so if as we're looking at this plan, the house is roughly in the middle and the septic is to the south of that, if this is oriented north.
Yeah, and the street's up above the house there.
Yes.
The part of the plan.
I was just curious, since the land slopes down and often that can be getting closer to groundwater, although this is compliant with the 5 feet, but was there a reason it wasn't a little closer to the house?
Deishang will have to answer that, Daryl.
Okay.
I'm not sure of his decision on that. Outside of the well radius is right there. You'll see it.
Yes.
Okay, so it's for two reasons. One is if you see there were in the history actually a long time ago, probably in the 1980s, there's the design engineer have done a good amount of soil testing more close to the house. There's like actually large outcrops. So it's just not the best soils in the front. Actually, Mark was checking on the soils. I don't remember the line is roughly right upgraded or near test pit 1 and above is different type of soils. And so the soils, the depth to groundwater in this proposed replacement area is the best, as we know. And you can see there's a cesspool almost right at that corner. They didn't really put it in the upper part is because there are large outcrops in the front, or the soils is not as great. So. And we are far away from wetlands, so we are probably about 200 feet. So it's in a no. The groundwater is very deep actually during this relatively above normal high groundwater. This test pit 1 and 2 we did excavate it down to groundwater is 10 feet and 11 feet, and test pit 3 it's uppermost is actually controlling. Because of the slope, is controlling the groundwater separation. So we digging down about 12 or 13 feet. We didn't hit it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so again, I think anybody else have questions?
I just had a question. So just so I understand, so this is to replace a cesspool, is that correct?
Correct.
And where is that cesspool on the map?
At the circle, you can see to the just to the right, left.
Yeah, there are 2.
Yeah, there's a 2. One is probably just like a manual type, and then obviously I don't know whether they did the first one there because the soils are not good, and then they add in another one for the downstream. So and you can see that one is almost close to the well setback too.
Okay.
And that's typically what they did back in the earlier days when prior to Title V in 1977 and changed in 95. People would just figure putting another cesspool in if the first cesspool was starting to fail. So it was a very common procedure back in the earlier days.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So, Mark, you're recommending approval.
I would recommend approval.
Conditional to
and just
those 3 items.
Yeah, update the soil testing
Mhm.
to reflect these C2 areas of sandy loam. Update the plan to remove the request for waiver, which is on the bottom right of the front page here,
Yes.
And they are looking for a garbage grinder deed recording, so that would be a condition of the approval. And just so the board knows, if you look at note number 2 below the waiver request, it does show they're increasing it by 1 bedroom, which is fine because they have suitable soil to increase the bedroom count. So note number 2 will say that they're indeed in going for an additional bedroom to 5 bedrooms.
Yes.
So from
So
4.
we don't often see a replacement system that does not require waivers. So it's
Correct.
a
This is
little
very
unusual
unusual.
for us.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And we've seen a couple tonight. We'll see another one later on tonight as well, which
Mhm.
fortunately, these sites were in an area where groundwater was not as high as some other areas that we have tested.
Mhm.
But that would be my request to the board, that it be approved with those 3 noted items and just note that it's going from 4 to 5 bedrooms.
Okay. So
I can do
Mary,
that. Yeah,
is
I will
that-
get the plan over tomorrow.
thank you.
Daryl, someone's got their
Okay.
hand raised.
Yes, Mary, you can,
Oh, hi, Daryl. I'm sorry to interject, but I just had a question. If there is ledge that's exposed, is there a condition around notification per the existing Board of Health bylaws that is required?
And the ledge would be where the pipe's going, if indeed they have to excavate ledge. If it's over 10 cubic yards, which usually the trench to put in the distribution pipe is not a big hole, but if they get over 10 cubic yards, then they would have to go through the ledge disruption process.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that, make sure it wasn't missed.
okay. If there are no other questions, do we have a motion to approve the plans subject to removal of the waiver request on here because variance hearing would have to be held to grant that waiver, to update the soil type as Mark has noted, update, correct, what have you, and to receipt of a deed recording for the garbage grinder.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none?
Diana Hook, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
And Daryl Beardsley, aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, so Mark, is there another?
Yeah, I don't know who's been in the audience, but
Yeah,
if we go in order, the next one would be 85 Maple Street. Again, I hope someone wasn't here waiting for a while but it would be 85 Maple Street that we'd be looking at, three items.
Okay.
We're going to be looking at a septic system and Deisheng is the engineer for that septic plan, as well as they're looking to put in geothermal wells, and the applicant today shared his new building application with showing additional rooms in the basement. So it's up to the board, but this is the building proposal. Presently, they have 5 rooms on the first floor, 5 rooms on the second floor, really 4 rooms on the second floor with the office space open. But the applicant is preferring to keep the second floor with the office enclosed, which would make it 5 upstairs, 1 guest bedroom on the first floor, plus additional 4 rooms on the first floor, and then these 2 additional rooms. But this is the first I've seen of this plan this afternoon, and my question would be, and it may not matter, but on the utility room in the basement, is that going to be a finished space as well? You know, it right now shows a gym and a playroom, and or a playroom and a home gym. But I don't know what's going on in the utility room, but they can have up to 13 rooms as long as it's not a full bathroom within any of those basement rooms. It looks like they have a half bath within the gym, but they can go up to 13 rooms with a 6-bedroom septic system. So I don't know if Lee is here or not, but he did submit these this afternoon, these building plans.
He knows that it's on tonight. I was so tied up, but the system, septic is updated to the 6-bedroom system.
Yes.
I didn't really follow up with the room count, so if the room counts meet the 13 total room number,
Yes.
then I would not think that he's going to finish mechanical room or utility room.
Well, and the building application determination can happen after the fact, but I just want to give the board the summary of what's being proposed. He's closing off the office on the second floor, and that will leave him, he has a side bonus room, 2 bedrooms up on the upper side, plus a big guest bedroom, and the office. So with that said, he would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total on the second floor with the office closed in. On the first floor, he has 5 rooms. One of those 5 rooms is a guest bedroom. And on the basement level, it's either 2 or 3. But when you add that up, he has 12 as it appears the way it's been presented as of this afternoon.
Yes.
And he can go up to 13. So as long as it's not more than 5 bedrooms. So I think the next step is this will have to happen during the building application process, which I can handle. But the next step would be to have the board look at the septic plan, the revised septic plan from Deschang, to go from 5 bedrooms to 6 bedrooms. And by doing that, Deschang, I believe you added 17 feet to each trench. Am I correct in
Yes.
saying that?
Correct,
Yeah.
yes.
And so he's getting his 6 bedrooms now from the septic plan. I don't know if we have that available on the Google Docs, but it should be somewhere and the board can look at that. And I'm going to recommend approval of that plan once the board has a chance to look at it.
Okay, and I agree that if the utility room happens to be finished, they still have a 6-bedroom system. So for the 13 rooms, they're okay. But I would like them to be aware of it, that then they would definitely be at maximum.
Yeah, and they couldn't put any full bathrooms in any of the basement rooms because then you'd be up to 7 bedrooms.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on this? And so you want us to also be looking at the site plan?
Yes, the new septic plan should be available. And that's the one that's going from 5 to 6 bedrooms. And then there's one additional plan. That's the geothermal plan,
Yep.
which this one is, I believe. Yeah, right there. You can look at the geothermal first if you'd like, since it's right there. Now, with the geothermal well procedure, they're deciding to go on either side. This, by the way, is a very limited lot. This lot is surrounded by wetlands, and it's limited in its site location based on the size of the lot as well as based on the where the leaching area could go and where the front area of the property you'll see the well location. So with that said, they're looking to go to either side of the leaching area by 25 feet. And we don't have anything that says anything. They can't go less than 25 feet. But on the bottom side where you see the geothermal wells in green, those are inside the need for final grading. So there would have to be a condition that the final grading meets Title V requirements if they plan to disturb that area. So they can't cut into those final grades, but they could drill into it and seal that drill. A geothermal well does not go to pump out water. What they do is they put tubes into these wells with like an antifreeze, and then they draw the source of the energy from the well water and create the energy. Might it be cooling or heating? But they're not drawing any water from these wells. They basically use the wells for the cooling properties of the water or heating properties of the water, where they take the energy out of the water for the heat. But that would be a condition I would ask them. I prefer them to go on the option 2 on the blue side. But if they have to go with option 1, which is on the final grading side for the septic system, it's going to need to be a condition that there's no disturbance of the required final grading for the breakout of the septic system.
Right. Could just cause some issues, or to have graded it and then drill, I don't know, the sequencing that would be most appropriate for that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Daryl, because sequencing is very important. These are drill rigs that would need to come out. I don't know if once that system's in, if they're going to even have a way to get in to do option 2. But again, I would prefer to sequencing where they put these in before the septic system. But I'd like to hear from the engineer, if you don't mind, Daryl, to get his view on this as well.
I agree the one that should put on the upgrading side, which is much flatter, stable ground than the slope area. So it's a 3-to-1 slope. So for any for stabilization, so it's not a good option. So actually, this is a closed loop geothermal, which is they drill the well and they put like a U type of a tube into it, which and then with some antifreeze, and the well itself will be grounded with like a more thermal sensitive ground, and it's become like a solid. They don't have water in the well per se after it's done. So they basically extracting heat or dissipating heat to the ground. That's why they call it geothermal. By the way, I have a geothermal for my house since 2011, so I kind of know this firsthand myself.
So I guess the option for the board is maybe you just vote on the blue option. I now lost the option numbers. I think it's option 2.
Yeah, option 2. Yeah.
And that the sequencing occur prior to the septic system installation.
So I noticed that Lee has joined. So Lee, I don't know if you have any particular comments or have received more information about the installation of those wells from the contractor.
I mean, ultimately, it's, what's required, I think, is because there's no town permit for geothermal, what's ultimately required of the state regulations, which is distance from septic and distance from well. So I put 2 options here just to kind of provide, options. But ultimately, this would be something that would likely have to go in. I mean, for the blue option before the septic went in, because just a well rig would have to be able to access that. And that's a big truck, big piece of equipment. So really it doesn't really matter too much to me, especially if the board just wants us to make sure it's in before the septic is in.
Yeah, and Lee, did you give a comment? I'm sorry, Derek.
No, go ahead, Mark.
Lee, I don't know if you heard Daisheng and I both were commenting on the green option, the lower side, because that is now going into the required final grading for your septic system. So it's concerning that they may disturb that grading, even with the cores in the ground. So I was explaining to the board the preference, and I think Daisheng feels the same way. He expressed the same thing, as to go with the blue option, which is the upside hill, because it's more stable.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
It's a flat.
Yeah,
too,
and it's
so,
flat. Yeah, and it's flat, and there's no potential for structural aspects underneath it. So yeah, that's totally fine. I have no quams.
Excellent.
You probably have to do this first, definitely. So can be conditioned to install this first, and then after you do it, this thing doesn't go bad or go anywhere because you are not relying on the water. I have it for 13 years and it's working well, so it's no issue.
Yeah, it's a super eco-friendly way of
you are not interacting with water, so technically it's isolated from the water. Closed loop is solid. So, and it's not going forward anyway, so it probably will last longer than the house.
Yes.
And the other thing is the equipment, such as the tubing coming towards the house, you want to make sure it doesn't interfere with any of the septic system components, such as the septic tank or the distribution piping and so forth. So it is indeed ideal to put these in before the septic system. And I would suggest that your geothermal company pass by the final decision and note to them that this is the preferred. If not, then I don't know if the board may want to see it again, but I know the board is not the authority to approve these, but we do have the authority to make sure the septic system and the well are protected. So, which this is showing, but again, we want to confirm that it is going to be as shown in the blue area. And I would ask the engineer, and the engineer should locate them afterwards on the as-built for the septic system.
Okay, so Lee, if you're okay with that, then Marcus,
no issues.
Yeah, then we could take the septic system after this. So, and I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I do prefer the blue just for minimizing disruption since it's unclear
No,
what that might
that,
mean in the long term. It just seems simpler.
that's
for
safer
protection of the
sounded.
septic system.
Yeah, I mean, you're not, it's probably the better of the option. I mean, that's why, that's why I put it in blue, because I like that color more.
Oh, okay.
Very good.
Maybe you can answer a couple questions. Is how long do these last? And is there any maintenance involved along the way with these?
With geothermals?
Yeah.
No, I mean, they last indefinitely. So it's,
Oh, they do.
yeah, it's a closed loop system. So the idea is that the ground is a constant 55 degrees, right? So what it's doing is it's just taking the Earth's temperature and using it as a means to heat and cool your home. So it takes it can disperse to the loop and pull from. So I mean, it's super eco-friendly because if you think like an air source heat pump, if it's 5 degrees outside, you got to go from 5 degrees to maybe 70 in the winter. But with geothermal, you go 55 because the ground is 55 always to whatever your temperature is in your home. So
And
what goes is the system inside the house. But
Okay.
they've come a long way in recent
Right,
times because of
the equipment
energy
will
push.
go wrong is inside the house. It's called either a water furnace. It's just like almost like a air conditioner, air condition. But the tubes in the ground is as like a heat exchange media of the ground rather than use air. The efficiency is much higher. It's like in general, if you put $1, you get $4 back when you are using the geothermal. That's basically in a simple way to describe the effectiveness. So,
And there's no maintenance. You don't have to refresh the that antifreeze.
Oh, no.
It's used.
no,
Not
you don't
like
need to
cars.
do that with the well. It's everything done is inside of the equipment in the basement. So
Okay.
if any mechanics wrong, it will be there. Here it's just basically heavy duty, plastic, rubbish tubes. They conduct the water. That's all, and they are more corrosion resistant. It's not metal.
So one thing I would say, again, because of my professional life and sorts of things I see, which can involve releases of materials into the environment, you might want to ask the installers of the geothermal if there's a way, if for some reason there was a leak in the tubing containing the antifreeze, like how would you know that? Would it be a change in performance of your system and your heating and cooling, or is there some kind of pressure meter on it or anything else that would just at least signal that there's some kind of problem, because that could potentially affect your water. And even though most people consider propylene glycol potable, that's not really with safety data sheets and other science. They've been upping the hazard level. Not that it's the most toxic thing out there, but it has been nudging up over the years from 0 to 1 to 2 in terms of hazard level for health. So you don't want to drink it. So you want to catch it really if there's a release and do something about it. So they might just have an easy way of knowing.
I would imagine.
They do have a pressure gauging in the pump in the system. One, and second is this is as I described. The tube is not like a tube in the water. Actually, the tube is in the drilled hole, and then they're going to put like a grout. It's almost like a concrete, but it's more heat conductive grout. The whole thing of the well becomes solid. So in a way, the tube itself will become like a hollow, encased in concrete. So even the plastic part, it's a like I say leaking hole. You probably won't happen, and you won't know anything inside the well. But if anything above the well, then you can cut it and replace it. So if they sense them leaking above on the top of the well and getting into the tubes will go horizontal, buried. So if that section get leak, then they have to replace that. So they,
Okay.
well, that's
So
what I
because
understand.
I just want to say, this is great information, but maybe talk to Lee so he knows. And unless there are people who are also thinking about this and could use this. Otherwise, we do have quite a number of things on the agenda tonight.
Yep.
And we still need to review the septic plan, correct, Mark?
This is the same plan. I
Correct,
believe.
correct, Darrell.
Yes. And can we, yeah, maybe the other version would be a little simpler to see than that with the extra layers on it. Oh, and oh darn, I saw Rebecca, I saw you on screen a moment ago. Could you just announce your presence for the roll call of board members here? You're on mute. Hang on.
We can see your picture, Rebecca, just can't see your video, that is. Anyways, here's the plan for 85
Okay.
Maple Street. Well, it's a revision to a previously approved plan, excuse me again. And they increased the leaching soil absorption area by 17 feet to get the 6 bedrooms. And their septic tank matched either for a 5-bedroom or a 6-bedroom septic system, so they did not need to change the 2,000-gallon tank. The deed recording has been done, I believe, for the garbage grinder restriction. That would still have to carry through on this plan. So with that said, I would recommend approval of this revision to a previously approved plan for a 6-bedroom, and that's to increase it by 1 bedroom from the original 5-bedroom. And Lee, you have, and I do so many of these, Lee, you have done the deed recording, have you not, for the garbage grinder?
Twice, actually. Yeah,
Oh,
twice.
well, I guess you got 2 plans. I guess that's okay. But thank
Yeah,
you.
twice. The first time when before we had a street assignment, and then again.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Thank you, Lee. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I would recommend approval of this with the same conditions as the 5-bedroom septic plan, which was the garbage grinder deed recording.
Okay, and we have that, so
Yes.
okay. All right. Does anyone have any other questions on this septic system before we move on? Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the plan conditional to receipt of the garbage grinder deed restriction, which is already
Which we do have already.
Yes,
Which-
so
So moved.
Seconded.
any other discussion? Hearing none?
Diana Hook, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
And Rebecca, are you voting? Are you connected audio-wise?
Darrell, while you're waiting, may I ask Lee if he overheard any part of our discussion on the building application process?
I did not. No, I like 3 minutes. I joined like 3 minutes.
May I pose the notes, Darrell, to Lee?
Yes, go ahead and then.
It was a quick overview. We see no problem with the proposed 5 bedrooms on the second floor. That includes the enclosed office. The 5 rooms on the second floor, which includes a guest bedroom. And I know you're proposing 2 finished rooms in the basement, your gym as well as your playroom. The question came up, and with a half bath only, because you couldn't have a full bath because that would create a bedroom. You know all this from the other reviews. But the question came up on that storage room. Is that going to be finished?
With a store, which
utility room.
Utility.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I mean, so here's the thing. Like, we plan to do very strict energy requirements these days. So we plan to do just spray foam the whole basement, and so we have to put some type of fire rating in front of it, whether it be a fire block drywall or something. But no, I mean, concrete floors. It's a utility room. So it's where all of our water heater and geothermal systems, everything is just going to be. So there's bulkhead. It's not us. It's concrete floors.
I would just
have
recommend
fire
you,
blocking.
thank you. And I would recommend you just update the building app. That'll come over to us and we can, once this plan's approved, we can approve the additional change to your house for the full enclosed office on the second floor with the 2 rooms in the basement. And that would work out fine. Just submit that as a building application or part of your present building application.
And that's great. And I assume there's no issue with the half bath in the basement.
No, half baths are fine as long as it's not a full bath, but you will need to present to the board the type of ejector pump just to make sure it's not too forceful when it pumps out. And we can go over that within the time you know what type of ejector pump you're going to use.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you,
Okay.
Darrell.
All right, so Rebecca, would you like to vote on the motion to approve the plans?
Dr. Honeywell is experiencing audio issues, so she will be
Oh,
back.
okay. All right, then Darrell Beardsley, aye. And Lee, I think you'll enjoy having walls on your office.
Yeah. I can tell you, yeah, I absolutely will, especially with a 3-year-old. I don't think that would work out so great.
I mean, they're cute during the
Yeah.
business meeting, but it can also be
Yeah. Yeah, I
well,
would agree.
awkward. So, okay, all right. So I guess, how does it work with an audio problem? She hasn't officially declared an abstain.
Ask her to raise her hand to indicate approval, or thumbs up
Yeah.
or thumbs down.
Alternate method, huh?
Yes, so Rebecca, do you want to do that? Go back on video for a moment and give us a signal of a yay or a nay? Otherwise, I think we will have to just note in the minutes that there wasn't a good connection. Okay, I think we will move on.
Sure, Darrell, the next item under my business, under agent's business is 39 Wildwood. The engineer, Daishang Wang, he's been a very busy person, is here, but the majority of this is really for additional geothermal wells and also reviewing the building application for the finished space over the garage. So I see Eddie is here, and I do know he submitted a geothermal well plan to us. The geothermal well, if you have it available, the location is off the well itself, the present well, by 75, I think 50 or 75. I have the plan right here. Let me see if it doesn't come up. I do have it here. They're 75 feet off the existing well. Beautiful. And again, we know all about geothermal wells now and how they're built. And so I'm going to recommend, and the septic system's downhill. And so, and the septic tank is on the other side of the house. So I'm going to recommend to the board that this does not interfere with any parts of the existing well or proposed septic system. And I know we can't approve these, but at least we can state if it's interfering with the well or the septic system, which I do not see.
Okay. And then like drinking water wells that are drilled into bedrock, which happens, well, frankly, because we have requirements that the wells be in bedrock. It's happening on every property, but given that there are 4, I mean, it would be good to remove the material that's taken out of the borehole.
Yes. I recommend that on every well that's drilled, that they move that away. So I guess the only issue here would be just to state there's no interference with the present well or existing septic, and they can move forward. The companies are, at least notifying us now. They are correct until we have regulations. They don't need to, but I think if they work with us, it'll work both ways, and we'll be able to see what they're doing. And it won't be too late if they drove right next to their own well or into the septic tank by mistake. So that's why I always tell the geothermal companies, get us a plan at least so we can see the location of these geothermal wells.
Yes, and I guess it would be in their interest if they encounter a need to relocate when they're out in the fields for whatever reason, to circle back and just check to make sure that everything is still compliant. You can review that. So does Mr. Rosa have any questions about what we've talked about? And any other board members have comments?
I'm sorry. This
Oh,
is
hi.
Eddie. I was trying to unmute my
Okay.
speaker, but no, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Anyone else?
No, I think we just went through the theory of the geothermal, so
Yes.
thanks for that.
All right.
There is another part to this, and it's the approval of the garage with rooms over.
Mhm.
Believe you should have some plans. If not, they would have to, another 6-bedroom septic system. So they would need to not go past 6 bedrooms and not be over 13 rooms. The question might be, is this considered a bedroom or not over the garage? And the board has always looked at this as how the entrance to that room over the second floor occurs. And if it's connected to the other part of the house, that might be the location of the bedrooms. So, and as I say, Deschang was the engineer overviewing this, and it is, like I say, a 6-bedroom septic system, and that would have to be upheld. Is that, and Eddie's here, so is Deschang. I guess the question would be, this room over the garage, how do you enter it? And does it have access to any part of the house outside of that room? And does it have a full bathroom within?
It does not have an access to the house. It's going to be like 50 feet away from the house.
Okay. Eddie, does it have a full bathroom?
Half bathroom.
Half bath. That's important. And do you know offhand, I don't know if the plans are available, how many, we'll see it on the building app when it comes in, but how many rooms total will you have with this additional room?
Just one room in the bathroom. As far as,
and what do you, I don't have your building plan open. Do you remember how many rooms do you have total in the house? Sorry. I mean, it will get addressed with the building application. Oh, here we go. I thought they were part of your, maybe not.
yes.
But you can't
Yes,
go
I had
over
a question about the bathroom, I think,
Yeah,
if I'm remembering correctly. So a little further, I think. Ah, there. Yes, the half bath, which is just about in the middle of the screen right now. So I think that top section is the downstairs, and yeah, there's the half bath. So here's my concern. I'm okay with the half bath, but there's that kind of extension that looks like it's inviting a shower. And the board in the past has had concerns about that because it just is going to be so tempting for someone to add a shower there. And then that will make this count as a bedroom, because any room with direct access to its own bathroom is a bedroom, which will, I think, Mark, then will that push the number of bedrooms on the property above what the septic is rated for?
It would, if indeed there's already 6 bedrooms in the house. That is correct.
The house has 4 bedrooms. 4 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms. Oh, so there is a, like I say, we'll need to see all this in your building application, but I think tonight was discussing the room. It appears to be 2 rooms, Eddie, right? The office and the gym.
Yes.
And
Okay,
again,
so
remember,
depending on the review, it might, sounds like there's a possibility that it would be okay with the room count, possibly, and bedroom.
I'm sorry, can you say it again? I'm sorry.
Oh, I think Mark will need to go back to the plans and just do another room count, because this is 2 new rooms and possibly 1 additional bedroom. If, again, in the past, we have discouraged people from having those kind of spaces ready to be upgraded, but it depends on what your current room count is, and we see too many plans we can't commit to memory, so we'll take another review.
Okay.
Yeah, Eddie, you'll need to submit this as a building application and it'll get reviewed. Tonight was just to look at the room over the garage to see how that fits into the equation. So what it would do is add 2 additional rooms to the total room count. So you can have up to 13 rooms. You can have up to 6 bedrooms. So, you know, as long as it fits in within that criteria, it will be okay.
Okay.
Right, and if you have the
And just
space for the bedrooms.
what is considered a room?
The labels, the way you have it, would be the gym slash, I'm reading it sideways, gym space, open space in the office. So that's 2 rooms the way I see it. I think the
Okay.
board might agree with me.
Okay,
And you might be able to make that a full bath if the room
If-
counts
if-
and bedroom counts work out.
okay. And one other question, the closets and bathrooms are not considered rooms, right?
That is correct. But
Okay.
bathrooms are considered a review of if it could be a full of master bedroom. So if you have a bathroom within a room, that would be considered a master bedroom.
But the bathroom itself does not count as a room.
That
Okay,
is correct. Yep.
okay. Just want to verify because then I can count in my head here. What I have and how, if I'm safe or not.
Yep. And Mark will be happy to help you go through that too.
What I would do, Eddie, is resubmit your building application. They notify me when that's completed, and I'll take a full look at everything. But now I know directives in respects to the rooms over the garage.
Okay,
All right. Good.
Thank you, Eddie.
no, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, to respect to that, so we're the geothermal contractor for Eddie. And does this interfere with the approval for the geothermal drilling?
No.
Okay, so we have the go-ahead for that.
Yes, just follow the plan if you can of what you submitted. If you do change it, just let us know. Our main review is to make sure that there's no interference with the septic system. Well, the septic's not in yet, so that's actually a good time to put your geothermal wells in. And
Yep.
we don't want to see any interference with the present well that's on site. And you are 75 feet away, and that is appropriate. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Darrell, the next item, if you want to go to it, and I thought I saw Dan McIntyre's 15 Lake
Yeah.
Street. It's a 6-bedroom proposed septic replacement. And I believe Dan's here.
Yes, I'm on, Mark. Thanks.
Yeah, and Dan, I was going to recommend approval, but if you want to, if it's okay with the chair, if you want to run through the plan a little bit, that would be appropriate, I think,
Yes.
since you're here.
Thank you.
Sure. This is for the record, Dan McIntyre representing the homeowner. Excuse me. They're in the process of selling the house at 115 Lake. It failed the Title V inspection, so we're proposing to put a new septic system in. The soils, as Mark mentioned earlier, the soil is very good here. No groundwater table, good sand and gravels. So we were able to put in a larger septic system to kind of resolve the bedroom versus room count issue in this house. It's a fairly large house, so we wanted to design a septic to match the total number of rooms. So I believe this ended up being a 6-bedroom system here. Compliant with Title V and all of the Sherborn septic regulations.
That is correct, Dan. It is a 6-bedroom complying with all our regulations. And so with that said, I would recommend to the board that the septic system as presented be approved. As Dan noted, the soil conditions were conducive to putting in a septic system compliant with both local and state codes.
Sounds good. Does anyone else have any questions? Diana, you're on mute.
I was just saying, hey, no waivers.
Yes.
It's shocking. You're going to see another one tonight the same way. Very unusual. All of a sudden, 3 come in with no needs for waivers.
Wonderful.
Doesn't happen all the time.
Okay. And does anyone else? Are there any abutters perchance who have any questions or comments? It's a good thing. Certainly replacing the system. Okay, so are we approving this evening, Mark? Or is there something yet to be done?
You're approving it, but conditional to the recording for the prohibition of a garbage grinder.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the plan with the condition of receipt of the garbage grinder deed recording?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? Hearing none?
Diana Hook, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
And Rebecca, do you want to raise a hand or speak? We're still not getting any sound. But if you want to, let's see.
Or use the chat.
That's right, haven't disabled chat anymore. Okay. There was some hand motion, but I couldn't tell what it was because her hand was off screen. We need, all right, we'll have to come up with some formula for that in future. So Daryl Beardsley, aye. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you, Dan.
The next item on the agenda, Darrell, is for 28 Greenwood, also known as Lot 1 and also known as Map 7, Lot 49, Washington Street. But the location is off of Greenwood. 28 Greenwood Street is the proposed address. I will have a couple questions. Deshang Wang is the engineer. I believe he still stayed with us. I don't see him right now. Okay, and so with that said, the plan should be available for viewing. This plan was approved by reviewed by the Board of Health for Title V, and then the applicant, Bob Murchison's here. He has decided to go forward and comply with local and state regulations. So the plan was redesigned by Deshang. Deshang is here. I don't know if you want to put the plan up and let Deshang go over any or have any comments, and I have a couple comments at the end. Thank you.
Yes, I think Jessica is bringing up the plan.
We do not have that plan readily
Oh.
available.
All right, I have plans, so let me just. Yeah, how come I don't have that plan either?
Yeah, I believe. it was-
Deshang might be able to.
Yes.
Yeah, Deshang,
Okay.
you
Why
do.
not I share it, okay.
Oh, I think because it came in not long ago, so.
This is an enlargement, so this is the first lot, so we say lot 1. So total acreage is just a little over 2 acres for the zoning requirement. The septic system is for a 4-bedroom system, and it's just as originally approved Title V system, which we have to tweak a little bit on the property line to make sure the well setbacks and the system setback to property lines meet the local requirements. And then that was coming up with the new law. And so, as you see over here, so the well to the septic is 150.56 feet, which is meet the requirement 150. And the septic system itself it's designed for 4-bedroom originally, and then we kept keeping the same design, so it's for 4-bedroom.
And I can add that it's for both the new well and for a new septic system. And the well that's being placed is more than 75 feet from an abutter's well. It's 85.56 feet away. Just so the board knows, I inquired what EC stand for, and that's erosion control. So you'll see that circling the property pretty much. There is a statement as well that there are no other leaching fields within the required distances to the proposed well. So we're doing both the well approval as well as the septic system approval. There is one question, Deisheng, if I may, Madam Chair, is to ask on the upper part of the lot, to the low side here where the well is located, it just kind of disappears. And is there a lot line that continues past what's shown on this plan? You'll see it, Deisheng, as you get down
Oh, you
to
mean
the
to the
end.
left? Yes.
Yeah,
I was
right
wondering
here.
about that.
Yeah,
blank
actually,
spot too.
if you look down on the lower drawing, you'll see the entire lot.
Yes, I just didn't know what happened at that point of the lot being shown.
Something, let me see, it's probably the
Because
some
it kind of disappeared on the lower one too. Yeah, right there. Yeah. Did it just disappear?
No,
Oh, there we
There
go.
it is.
Shane, why are you doing magic now?
Sorry, well, there's one like probably.
Now you see it, now you don't.
Shang, if you can get at least one original copy showing the entire lot, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think it was labeling things, so kind of carried a blank kind of things with
No,
cut and paste.
that does help resolve it. And if you can submit an electronic copy as shown right
Yes,
now, that would be
yeah, I
great.
would say save it and save it. I apologize, but
And I did meet with the applicant as well as Deisheng about a week ago on a Monday. And we talked, on Tuesday, we talked about the deficiencies, which were corrected, but the question still came up, as it did with the previous plan for Title V, is the situation of legal boundaries. And there was discussion on that, and Deisheng or Bob, you're welcome to put your information in, but it was more or less can't be done until the lot's approved. So I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong in that statement, but I think this is a preliminary septic well plan, but I'm not for sure if the lot's approved.
Yeah, I'd be happy. No, the lot has not been gone through the A&R process, which obviously stands for approval not required. And it's very typical with many projects in Sherborn that septics and wells are designed and approved based on a proposed A&R plan, because folks don't want to go ahead and draw the lines until they know that they've got an approved well and septic. So this is very typical. This is what happened on 53 Farm Road when I did an A&R on that property. You in advance approve the well and the septic system, and it's pretty typical. So these are absolutely legal lot lines that will be put into force once the permits are in place.
I'd suggest that just go into the record at least. I didn't mean to interject, but I'll let others speak.
Yeah, I mean, the approval would go away if these weren't the lot lines, obviously.
Yes, we'll make it conditional to the confirmation of
Of course.
those before releasing the plan, approved plan. Do we have floor plans that you've already reviewed, Mark, for the?
No, not, I had floor plans for the previous property that was only Title V, but I don't know what they're planning to use for this house, if it's the same plans. or
Yeah,
not.
Daryl, your
So
typical.
that'll come later, that we'll review.
Yeah, exactly.
later.
Yeah. And you know, I by this time am very familiar with the way you folks approach counting bedrooms, and we will do it in compliance with your approach. But yeah, we have a rough layout that is compliant, but obviously we're going to go out and get kind of more final architectural plans done, so things could shift a little bit. But
And the engineer
we're very
did put
aware of your
sorry.
room count assessments, and you know how you do it.
Okay.
Darryl, someone has their hand up, but after that, I can recommend I will give my recommendation.
Okay. So before I go to Mary, are there any board members who have any questions or comments? Nope. Okay. It doesn't mean it's your last chance. Okay. So Mary.
Thanks, Daryl. Just to recollect on 53 Farm Road, I do believe there was A&R plans proposed before the septic was approved for that. So it might be worth just looking back on that and understanding if that was a sequence. And then the other thing I would just note is that I do think that this property, is part of broader discussions that are kind of underway and some continuance on the Washington Street stuff. So, in as much as that matters, I think just a reminder is useful.
Yeah, I agree, Mary. That is absolutely correct. There are lots of discussions going on around
Yeah.
this whole 18-acre property. But the point really is that in order to move forward, I've proposed what I believe Mark feels is a compliant septic and well plan on a particular A&R lot.
Mhm.
And if that is approved, that will highly likely go forward and be built. And then that will inform all of the other activity, because once I do that, then I can't do something else on this property, obviously. So, I mean, I think it's the only way it kind of can be sequenced, to be honest with you, and that's why I'm doing it this way. There will be, along Greenwood Street, there'll be another lot that will come before the board sooner rather than later, I hope. That
You
will
have-
also be compliant.
And Daryl, if I could also just to you just mention that I do think that from our experience on Farm Road, where we did have some A&R and market rate development going on, the sort of proximity of the wells, feels a little bit concerning. It's right at that threshold of what's allowed, and yet there's a very, very large lot available. So I would wonder, if there isn't a possibility of relocating that just a little bit further away from the abutters lot, so that they could, potentially enjoy a little bit more protection.
Are you talking about moving
It's
this
always a nice option
area or the
for,
well?
yeah, if Albria.
Sorry,
No, that was
Daryl,
the
I was
issue
just
for you
noting
all,
that
but
sorry.
yes, I understand for the blue dot there, it's sort of in the center middle of.
It seems like it's just
site plan.
meeting the minimum threshold, and
Yes.
it may be a consideration of the applicant to move it a little bit further away if that's a possibility.
It would be, right, it would be up to the applicant because it's met our regulations
Yeah.
for separation. And right, if it was the person who was going to live there, they might look at it differently.
Yeah.
But that's outside of our authority to change that necessarily, without just changing the regulation and
Right.
requiring greater separation. Brian?
Thank you.
Notice the setback for the house from the property
hold
line,
on,
52.
Deshang.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, hold on. Brian's up next. Okay, Brian.
Hi, Brian Moore, 49 Farm Road. I mean, I'm just concerned that we have some lane changing going on here with one type of development, another type of development. For the people who live on Greenwood or nearby, this must be exhausting, because we went through this on Farm Road, and it seems as though, it's just a giant waste of time to continue to get application after application. If this is the lane that the applicant wants to stay in, then maybe it could come with some kind of commitment that this is it for the parcel, or maybe with the A&R filed, so it's more kind of has a foundation as opposed to being speculative. I know that you are all volunteers and you spend a lot of time and effort reviewing this stuff. It seems like it's just death by a thousand cuts at this point. So, I would suggest that if the applicant really has picked a particular lane for development for 1 or 2 or 12 of his properties in town, they should stick to it and follow it through the process so that your time isn't wasted as a board and as volunteers. Thank you for hearing my comments.
Daryl, would it be okay if I
think that's-
responded?
Well, first I was going to say that there are no rules around the processes necessarily. Other than that, we review what comes to us and we handle that as it comes in.
May I now respond, Daryl?
Sure.
Yeah, what I would say to Brian and to everyone else is that I proposed 4 homes. It was a 40B, obviously, and the town turned them down. And what I listened, and what the town said was that they wanted these homes to be on the full 2 acres that is required for for market rate housing in that community. And now I've come back and that's what I'm doing. So I don't, the length of this process has occurred because my original proposal was turned down. And I'm not going to comment on that, but I am going to say that people in the community said they wanted these homes to be on 2 acres and to have the full Board of Health separations. And I've done that. So I'm not sure why I'm getting criticized, but I can take it. And I appreciate your review tonight.
Darrell, if you want, I can recommend my recommendation. So first recommendation would be that we get a new electronic copy showing the completed lot line as Desheng just updated, and also at least one original copy for our files. And then I would recommend approval of this plan conditional to deed recording for the garbage grinder prohibition, since it was not designed for it, and that the plan not be released till we confirm that the legal lot lines are according to what's been drawn on this plan. That would be my recommendation to the board.
Okay, that came through sort of funny. It held back your voice for a while and then it all came very fast. So legal
I'm sorry.
new copies,
Yeah.
legal lot lines, and deed recording for garbage grinder.
Garbage grinder. So 3 things, Mark?
That is correct, and I'm sorry, I
Okay.
was holding down the bar versus
Okay.
putting on, so apologize for the breaking up.
No.
And then obviously getting those 3 in would release the plan at that point.
Okay.
But just one more time, Mark, just so I can write it down.
Sure, I can. So
confirmation of the A&R plan, you said,
Yeah,
right?
Desheng just updated the plan, so if he can, completed the lot line showing us, which was just, it wasn't showing on the original plan. So if he can submit an electronic copy of it as well as at least one original plan, so we'll have it
Sure.
on our file.
Of course.
Secondly,
Apologies for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's minor. And then if the garbage grinder prohibition requires a deed recording, and that's because it wasn't designed for a garbage grinder. So once that deed recording is submitted back to us, then the plan can be released with one other condition, and that is that the plan reflects legal boundaries as well as, approved as a legal lot. And then the plan will be released.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
If that's what the board so wishes.
Chair Beardsley, if I may,
Yes.
Mary Moore in the chat asked a question. Is there a
Oh,
comprehensive?
I don't want to address anything in the chat because then I want to set the stage, because when we're deep in discussions, we're not going to have time for that. So that person might just be asking to see if other people have any information. Does that make sense after our last discussion about whether we would have the chat or not?
Yep, just letting me know in case you didn't see it.
I did notice it, but I think our deal is to, if people want responses in a meeting, then they need to voice it in a meeting so all can hear. Say for people who are dialing in by phone, they would miss out on that otherwise, and then would be repeating things. And there is another mechanism, which is just to do it by voice. So I think that's fine. It's a communication in the background is how we're handling it now. Does the rest of the board agree that that was kind of the substance of what we discussed at the last meeting?
So,
Okay. Okay. Oh, Mary?
Sorry, Daryl, I'll just say it out loud because I had a question, but I'm just curious if there is in fact an A&R or comprehensive A&R for 4 homes on 2 acres that's been presented. I know there's at least
This is the only thing that we've received so far.
Okay.
I believe there's some other plans going through Conservation Commission, but I don't know how many or which
That's
ones.
correct. That's correct, Daryl. Yes.
But there's nothing in front of the planning board yet. Is that correct?
No,
Okay.
that will come once we get the approvals. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So do we have a motion to approve the plan subject to, and since Mark said them twice, subject to the 3 conditions that Mark had identified?
so moved.
Seconded.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? And Brian, can your comment wait until after our vote, or? Okay. Sorry. Okay. And let's see, do we still have, and Rebecca, I don't know if you'll be able to vote. We'll see how that goes when we get to you. All right. So any other discussion? Hearing none?
Diana Hook, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
And then Rebecca, want to give it another shot? We're still not hearing anything, though. Okay, and Daryl Beardsley, aye. All right, Brian.
Sorry, thank you. Brian Moore, 49 Farm Road. Just a quick question. If the board is entertaining this application, it's not an application, but this plan, does that mean that the applicant has withdrawn their appeals at the state level for the 40B?
I have no information on that. Bob, I
Could
don't
you
know if you
ask
want to
the
address that, but otherwise,
This
I
is,
have no
this
knowledge.
application is under chapter 40A, not under chapter 40B.
Do you still have an appeal underway for this?
We're supposed to go into mediation, and that mediation will include a discussion of what the board just voted on. And it's a very positive thing, obviously, for the mediation.
But you're dual tracking your project.
So the answer, Brian, is the 40, this is not the right forum for this conversation, but the
Right.
answer is that the 40B cannot be built if this home that was just approved is built. They're mutually exclusive of each other. I think that's fairly clear to everyone, right? In other words, that can't happen.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. All right, Mark, next up.
Next one up is, we did Pilgrim Church,
Mhm.
90 Maple Street, just general discussion. I met with a person named Dave Walsh. He was just interested in knowing the procedures for septic systems and wells at 90 Maple Street. And he was kind of funny because he said, you won't forget the acreage because it's 90 acres. I said, well, that's a good way to remember, but it's very preliminary. He just was asking questions about past requests for that property, as well as just general concepts, nothing that is in writing yet. There was an overview, but I just wanted the board to be aware in case you ever see something at 90 Maple Street, you'll know that some discussion has started.
Okay.
Okay. And then the next one, unless there's questions, the next one's 137 Prospect Street. I have the engineers, Dan McIntyre, who's also the engineer for 183 South Main Street after that. So I'd ask that Dan maybe stay for that as well. Is Dan still here? Yep.
Yes.
Hi, Dan. So Dan and I spoke a little bit about the proposal for 137 Prospect Street, and we were going over the October 12th, 2001 decision by the DEP. Oh, let me put, I'm sorry, my video's off. We were talking about the decision from October 12th, 2001. It came from the Cape on different aspects of looking at design flow.
If I just interrupt you for 1 second,
Yep.
I just wanted to, the homeowner, Gabe Bershervis, is also on the line.
Oh, I apologize. I apologize. Madam Chair, do you want me to go first, or do you want them to go first? It doesn't matter to
No,
me.
I didn't mean to interrupt, Mark. I just wanted to announce.
Well,
it, Gabe.
okay. So Dan and I had a conversation about the decision by the DEP about how to look at design flow. And they gave 3 different ideas. And what it brought me back to was I had to go back to the Board of Health codes back in the 1970s. The Board of Health back in the 70s required 75 gallons per capita. So 150 gallons per bedroom if you have 2 people per bedroom, which it's based on. With that said, this was a replacement septic system back in 1976 or 77. And it was to replace a septic system for a 3-bedroom house. And I did review the assessor's records, and it was 3 bedrooms for a while, but then it went up in room count and bedroom count from 3 and 7 rooms, 3 bedrooms, 7 rooms, to 4 bedrooms and 8 rooms. So the question really at hand is looking at what we're looking at, and that's the addition, as well as determining if they're going to need to design for 5 bedrooms, and if so, what that creates is the potential from going from 3 bedrooms from the original point where the house was repaired, a replacement system was put in for 3 bedrooms back in 77, to 5 bedrooms, which normally the Board of Health will grant 1 additional bedroom. So when Dan and I were talking, I said, maybe tonight the board can look at the floor plans and see if there's a possible way to keep the room count to within a 4-bedroom room count, which is 9. But the possibilities there, there could be 10 rooms. And then the discussion came up, well, maybe we can look at the basement rooms. So that's kind of a summary. Dan, you can add more to it if you'd like, but that's, I think,
Just
where
one
we
thing, Mark, the issue is we had done soil testing out there.
Oh, yes.
Groundwater table's at 48 inches,
Yep.
which is just shy of the 60 inches requirement of the Sherborn regulations. So that's why we're into this whole issue here, whether we can go from 3 to 5 or only from 3 to 4.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, I think maybe looking at that, because based on what you said, that 450 gallons was representative of 3 bedrooms at the time that it was done.
That's correct. It was 450, so it was based on that previous
Yeah,
code.
that's 75, so 150
Yes,
per
so
bedroom.
that would be a 3-bedroom. And
Okay, is
we
that
have a
your
disposal
read too?
construction.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say the good thing is we have excellent files on this property, and we do have the disposal construction permit that also notes 3 bedrooms.
Okay.
And what was the question, Darryl? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask, the first question was just confirming the 150 gallons at time of installation was the number.
Yes.
And so it does match up with the 3 bedrooms. Is that how you're seeing it, Dan? I know that the letter attached from the Southeast region, I believe it was, had some other twists and turns on interpretation, but it was often tied to either the number of bedrooms alleged,
Well, we
as a specification, or numbers that matched up said, well, we're going to attach it to a 3-bedroom house, but that's not the main thing. Here's the gallonage. So in this one, both seem to support, either interpretation seems to support the 3 bedrooms. It's the original design. And, I've been searching for a different memo. I believe it was more recent than the 2021, was it? 2001?
2001. 2001. Yep.
So
up there.
that was a slightly different take on some of these issues, and we haven't been able to locate that just yet. There's another option to pull that at some point and see how it matches up with the situation.
We agree that it was 3 bedrooms back when they replaced the original cesspools.
Mm-hmm.
But my interpretation of the 2001 DEP letter is that we should be comparing the design flow capacity against current code, which is the 110, not previous design codes.
Okay, and so Mark, on the plans.
And on that note, Darryl, what happened since we've been looking at that procedure is that 75 gallons per person per day, 150 per bedroom, was based on the potential for a garbage disposal. Since then, we've been advised on another property. Dan, you weren't involved with this property, but you can't use that garbage disposal capacity to get additional flows. So that's created another layer over the 2001 decision. And that came from Claire Golden.
Yes.
So with that said, we're kind of in a predicament now because they always included garbage disposals with the 1970s code, the local code. So it kind of gets in the way of the 2001 decision.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any garbage grinder mentioned on this one. It's just based on.
Yeah, when you look, I drew the code out. It was based on designing it with the consideration for a garbage disposal. That's why they were so high at the 150.
Yeah, because later it came along that we set up deed restrictions to not have to include the flow for a garbage grinder.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have all these deed restrictions for that. Maybe we'd have sort of an approval to add a garbage grinder. Would have gone in the other direction. And we'll still look for that Claire Golden memo
Yes.
because
I-
it is
I-
more recent and it does interpret it a bit differently. But maybe I'm not closing off your interpretation, but I think we need to find that just to verify.
Okay.
So maybe we should talk about like what are maybe are some of the other options.
Yeah, and Dan and I talked about the rooms, so maybe the board and Dan can go over the rooms to see if there's the opportunity to deed record the basement room. And there is a room over a garage, correct, Dan, that's being proposed?
Right, so yeah, there's kind of the whole thing. What the proposed addition would be shaded in blue. They're proposing to add on the length of the house and then a separate garage building that would not be tied to the house. So the house itself, we come up with 9 rooms, 4 bedrooms. But we know that the homeowner would like to finish off above the garage at some point in the future. And we wanted to try to address that now rather than run into a problem later on.
I'll ask a very different kind of a question. Is there, maybe it's not worth it for, certainly wouldn't be the least costly, but is there any spot that would meet current regulations for a 1-bedroom system that would only serve the garage perhaps?
I don't know.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot of room left on the site once we, with the well location. But that's certainly something that we can think about if the board would be, acceptable to that.
Okay. Okay, so let's, so the rooms are pretty firm. Did that room count you've already given, that was first and second floor, so no
Well,
finish.
can we just go over the rooms,
Yeah.
just to make sure that my interpretation matches yours?
That would be good.
So this is the basement.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mechanical room over in the bottom right-hand corner. Well, this looks like the existing unfinished playroom. That doesn't look right.
Yeah, that's the existing, Dan.
Okay, all right. So here's the first floor. So we have the kitchen, living room, study, and then the family dining room is an open concept, so we're calling that one room. So we have 4 rooms on the first floor.
And before we go any further, and I know that room, that's the family dining room, just so the board can see it, it's kind of open up with a little bit of an L shape, but not much. There it is. You got a better view of it now. So, it's a matter of how is there a step down at all there, Dan, or is that all open to one area?
I don't think there's a step down.
Well, here's
Gabe,
how.
There is no step down between the family room and the proposed new addition there. It's a flat entry.
Here's how I interpreted it, but I'd like to hear from the rest of the board. So I divided that space differently because right now, as it's defined, to me, the family dining room would be 2 rooms. However, the kitchen is not an eat-in kitchen. And we always look for eat-in kitchens. And with the dining room being, maybe there, maybe not. So I see that dining area as connecting to the kitchen. So that would be one room. And then the family space with the sofas, chairs shown, and study and living room being the other 3 rooms. Does anyone else on the board see this differently?
Darrell, if I can just interject, I believe that's the way the assessors saw it as well. 9 rooms, 4 bedrooms.
Okay. I would just look at or the kitchen could be not eat-in, and then if there wasn't a dining table there, it would be just a family room, but otherwise I'd connect that to the kitchen.
Okay. I can see that as well. We still end up with 4 rooms.
Right,
Yeah.
And then on the second floor, we have 4 bedrooms.
Okay.
We got the bedroom number 1 would be the master bedroom with its own bathroom.
Mhm.
And then the other 3 bedrooms share. Let's see, there's two other bathrooms on the second floor, so they would share those 2 bathrooms.
Mhm. Okay, so there must be another room in the basement room.
Yeah, was the basement. Is that the next one down? No, that's the garage.
And Daryl, I need to stand corrected. I'm looking through the assessors and they were 7 rooms, 4 bedrooms in the most recent assessment.
Okay.
So I stand corrected on that.
Okay, so then what might be taking place in the basement? If this is the existing, sounds like there's a plan for the basement. I do
There
remember
is.
seeing something, but
So where it says unfinished basement, that is going to be finished into one large room.
okay. And can we scroll down just a little to see what the windows are? Oh, sorry, the other way, right? Whether the page moves or the picture moves. So for the basement, I'm just trying to see for that room that's going to be finished, does it have a walkout to grade or windows, sizable windows?
No, they're actually
That
windows.
looks like just
down
the
there.
wells.
So there's no access to the outside. The access to the basement would be the set of staircase over on the left-hand side going up into
Oh,
the
okay.
living room.
Hmm.
And then there's another set of stairs coming down through the mechanical room into the playroom.
Yeah. So the way we've handled deed restrictions for basement rooms is they can't be walkout basements nor have, a wall of windows. And this does not have that. So this would meet our usual criteria for a deed restriction on a basement room.
Okay, so just to clarify this for the homeowner, if we put a deed restriction on the basement, that would allow the room above the garage to be finished?
Yes.
Okay,
It's consistent with how we've done it, provided that there's not a full bathroom above, associated with that room above the garage. So Mark, do you have any comments on that?
No, that is correct. I would say that, remember, keep the room count to 9. And if you have 10 and it's a basement room, then you deed record that basement room. So you're still at the 9 room count and no more than 4 bedrooms. And the room over the garage without a full bathroom that doesn't have any entrance to the second floor bedrooms would be considered a room and not a bedroom. That's the way the board has looked at it.
okay.
So Gabe, I don't
Gabe,
know
do
if
you
that,
understand that?
yeah.
Somewhat. I'm not as up to speed on the codes as you are. I'm trying to understand it.
Well, ask a question because it would,
So, yeah.
talking more about it is fine, especially since
So,
we have a new board member.
right, when
Probably
Mark said
mind hearing more too.
Mark said he stands corrected, is he referring to that this is actually a 4-bedroom house going to 5, or that this is still 3 going to 4?
Well, I was only overviewing the assessors records, and at one point it's an interesting overview with the historical overview. At one point, it was 4 bedrooms, went to 3 bedrooms, back to 4 bedrooms. So, in the assessors, we only use as a guide. We actually do what we're doing tonight, look at what's existing, how the board looks at that in respect to the septic system. So it's more of the board's review than the assessor's record. So I didn't mean to interject information that wouldn't. Their criteria is a guide. Again, what the board decides is from the floor plans that are being submitted.
Okay, then if we're following the board's recommendation or interpretation of this, that this is going from 3 to 4 under this plan and following the rooms that were just presented, we could theoretically proceed with this plan and be within that restriction of a 4-bedroom septic.
Yeah,
Yes.
where it gets confusing is bedroom count also falls under room count. So that's where people, I get confused sometimes. But the way it shows right now, you have 4 bedrooms on the second floor. And we count any room over the first floor as a bedroom. So that's why we had to discuss the room over the garage. And the board will interpret that as a room and not a bedroom as long as it doesn't have a full bathroom in it and is not connected to the other bedrooms within the house. So,
Okay, understood.
And then the limit is 9 total rooms. And as Dan noted, it looks like you might be going to 10, but one of the 10th room is the basement room. So in that respect, that the board has allowed that room to be deed recorded to indicate it's not in the room count. So if a Title V inspector, if you ever sell your house, went into the house, they would call your house if they saw 10 rooms, a 5-bedroom, but once they look at the deed restriction, they would realize it's a 4-bedroom with 10 rooms, is how that works.
Got it. Thank you for that
And-
clarification.
Yes,
You're welcome.
if you're aiming for potentially 5 bedrooms at some point, then we will continue to look for that other piece of guidance to see if that weighs in. But with what we have so far, it does seem like it's a 3 going to a 4, unless, Mark, you think that the assessor's records are compelling. But usually if we have a septic plan that's indicated, as this one has, the gallonage and the 3-bedroom house, then it's a little tougher to change that.
Yes, and it appears from the assessors that when they went into the house in different years, things were changing. But from the plan that Dan showed, it definitely shows 4 rooms over the second floor as 4 bedrooms. So that's the way I see it presently.
Oh,
And-
but I mean, in terms of determining, if we had no septic plan information, sometimes we use assessor's records
Yes,
to
that's
help
correct.
determine how many bedrooms should it be counted as for the existing house.
And they bounced around with 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms,
Yeah.
probably depending on whatever the previous owners were doing at the house.
Yeah. So, but does that,
Yes, that all makes sense to me now. Thank you.
okay. And does that help? Or
It
you
helps
want
in the
to
sense- it
mull
helps
it
in the
over a
sense-
bit more?
Well, it helps in the sense that if we were to proceed with this would be okay, and I don't have to redo plans, that this would go through hypothetically, that you're not saying, no, this is impossible right now. So this does make sense.
Okay,
And we'll keep your plans on file. And when you're ready to go forward, we'll, be ready to help you out with the deed recordings and so forth. First step is getting your septic system approved and then moving forward with the board. And the same discussion will occur about going with the bedroom count when Dan presents those septic plans.
Sounds good.
okay. Dan, any more questions from?
No, I think that's good.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
all right.
Okay, Darrow, the next one is 180, let me grab it here, 183 South Main Street. Thankfully, Dan had some good information on the previous septic system. He had a Title V report, plus he had pictures showing where it was and how there would be, from his overview and letter, he has indicated that that cesspool has been abandoned. Unfortunately, this is a situation where the installer and the homeowners were not in agreement with various issues, including contractual, which I cannot get involved with. But what I do need is for the installer either to submit, there we go, Dan, there's your pictures too. We need the installer to submit an abandonment certificate of the old septic system as well as an installer certificate. Just so the board knows past history, we have had another issue of this same nature where there was an issue between the installer and the homeowner. And Claire Golden at the state said the way to resolve it is to have a Title V inspection of the septic system that was put in, the new one, and have that same Title V inspector, or in this case, an engineer, indicate that the old cesspool was abandoned. The last thing we want is to have an old cesspool on a property that wasn't abandoned. It could create a major sinkhole and a safety issue. But Dan, as shown in these pictures, and wrote that he's comfortable in determining that the old cesspool was abandoned. And Dan, go ahead. That was an overview.
No, I think you've covered it. There was an issue between the homeowner and the contractor. And the homeowner hired Holliston Sewer to come in and do a Title V of the new system to serve as the installer certification. But the question remained on, the old components, whether they were abandoned. But I'm comfortable based on my inspections out at the site that they were.
And I was just passing it by the board to make sure you're comfortable with both Dan's decision and my decision to say I'm in agreement with Dan. And if that's the case, the next step is to finalize this project, go out and do the house inspection and the final grading and so forth. But I just want to make sure this step was satisfactory to the board since it's unique in its own way.
And it sounds like, okay, so there was information to indicate where that leaching pit was. And so by looking at what the excavations were and that, combining it, we have this ghostly image of the former leach pit.
Yes. So when the current homeowners bought the home, when was that, in 2021? They had a Title V inspection done by Holliston Sewer. It was a passing Title V, but then they wanted to expand the house, and that's why they got involved in a new septic system. So we used the original Title V that was done when they purchased the house to locate those components. And then, of course, we've got the new Title V for the installer certification.
Okay.
So the next step would be, if the board's in agreement with these decisions, I will contact the homeowner to do the final part of it, which is the final grading and the house inspection.
Well, it seems reasonable to me that the due diligence has been done to verify the removal of that. Does the rest of the board have any questions or comments for?
No, I agree. Thanks for showing the pictures.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think it looks good.
Thank you. Okay, I believe we're okay with that. Dan, thank you for your
All
presentation.
right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the last one doesn't deal with Dan, but I don't know if the engineer has been waiting this long, but we have a septic plan for 35 Brush Hill Road. It's a replacement septic system. And I don't know if Jamie Bissonette was the engineer. And I don't know if he's online. If he's not, I can present the plan because it is ready for approval, conditional to a garbage grinder waiver.
Yes, I thought this plan had very nice profiles.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
He had a few.
There was a lot of good detail in there.
Yeah, he's new to town, so there were a few more local codes that he just had to brush up on. And the one thing I did tell him, as you'll see in the design flow up top there, it really, because he has to design a minimum of 100 lineal feet, and we had a good perk rate out here, and groundwater was not an issue. Even he adjusted it with one USGS well. I looked at another one, and they both were in Acton, was the one I looked at, and he looked at Concord, and I looked at both. They both were very similar in the results for the USGS Frimter groundwater adjustment, both showing that groundwater was greater than 5 feet below grade. it could meet new construction. But he designed the minimum with the minimum lineal feet of leaching trenches. And with that, he actually could have a 4-bedroom here with the garbage grinder waiver, but I told him he could present it that way, but he still wanted to present it as a 3-bedroom. So they would have to come back and get the plan approved for additional bedrooms if they so wish, but that's what he's presenting. And with the plan noted, it is trenches. He didn't realize we require 4 inches of stone over the trench as well as below the trench, the same type of stone. But you'll see as you move the plan around that he's corrected all that. Unfortunately, a lot of these were last minute because we get conservation notice and then the meeting was coming up and everyone was in a crazy rush because they weren't for sure if we were not meeting maybe in July, but the corrections have been made. It was interesting. He comes from the south area, so the Southeastern DEP reviews his plans, and he had flow levelers for the distribution box, and they're basically plastic units that fit into the hole of the distribution box that you can see those several holes there, and they don't allow it except for a replacement distribution box only. So he took that off. He took that off as a addition to it, because if one of those fall off, then you got unequal flow at that time. So with that said, that he corrected everything as I requested, and I recommend approval of this plan as presented for 35 Brush Hill Road with the condition for a garbage grinder prohibition deed recording.
Okay. So do we have a motion for approval subject to that receipt of the deed restriction for a garbage grinder?
So moved.
Oh, you're on mute, Diana.
Seconded.
Okay, and is Rebecca still on? I don't see. You could try again. You're willing. Oops, I don't see her any longer. Oh, there, yes. Still can't hear you. Okay. And Daryl Beardsley, aye. Oh, wait.
When we haven't voted.
No,
huh?
we didn't even know. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun. Getting punchy. And I can't talk around my braces. I'm not going to miss them. Okay, so we had a motion, a movement seconded. All right, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none.
Diana Hook, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Okay, and Daryl Beardsley, aye. Ooh, all right.
With that said, Daryl, I'm all set with agent's business at this point. Thank you.
Are the plans ready for approval?
Conditional to the garbage grinder
yes,
prohibition
yes.
deed recording.
Yep. Okay. All right. Right, we didn't need a variance hearing for that. That's where I'm getting twisted. Okay.
It's so
We're not
strange
used
that
to
we
that.
had 4
Yes.
plans tonight that didn't need waivers. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's just, it feels odd. Okay. All right, let me check what's left on the agenda. Later. All right, let's address some of the other items under health administrator's business, which is a new category, just to separate out administrative happenings with the Board of Health. You'll see there'll be some things about the shared services that we're in with the Charles River Health District, but this is a nice way, this and other things going on with functioning of the Board of Health, and to highlight things a little differently. So, Jessica, would you like to go through those items?
Thank you, Daryl. So the first thing under health administrator's business is the news that we do have a new Board of Health minutes clerk. Daryl was provided with a few recommendations through shared services and others. someone who might be able to help us complete the minutes. We were able to successfully hire that person. They have worked in several other surrounding municipalities and are quite seasoned with doing minutes. And so I hope that will prove to be fruitful for us.
So, and for now, the person's going to be doing those past minutes.
Correct.
While Ellen was gone, and then we'll just see how the arrangement works out and funding for that, et cetera.
She's currently going through the onboarding process as required by town of Sherborn.
Yep.
The next item is Sherborn's capacity assessment feedback. So just a little bit of a brief overview. Sherborn is part of a shared services agreement through the Office of Local and Regional Public Health. We are in a group under the umbrella of the Charles River Health District, and that is with towns of Needham, Medfield, and Dover. As part of the State Action for Public Health Excellence program, the Office of Local and Regional Health have created performance standards that will elevate over time, improve the municipal and regional public health systems, and the performance of local public health departments. So these standards look at credentials, workforce training requirements, all created with local public health partners. Achieving all of the performance standards is critical for the equitable delivery of high quality health services across across the state, and essentially the sharing of resources across communities, which could prove very advantageous for Sherborn. We received some feedback for the capacity assessment that was conducted in, was it 2023, Daryl?
And some of it was this year, not long ago.
Yes, in which the Board of Health was required to submit documentation based on the criteria that the shared services asked for, which our lovely administrative assistant Jean so graciously pulled together. And recently we were able to meet as a group to discuss the outcome of those of that assessment done. Very happy to say that as a group, collectively, Dover, Sherborn, Medfield, and Needham scored in 87% in terms of meeting the performance standards outlined by LOBH. And if you would like additional information on that, you can feel free to visit the state website. There's a whole section regarding Public Health Excellence Grant. And it's really wonderful. I look forward to updating you as we go along with that. Do you have anything else to add, Daryl?
Sorry, I muted myself. So a lot of things are still in the formulation stages. So we've been talking about different issues that are going on. There's a fee study on the horizon just to see if our fees are appropriate. We know that we're under really what the level of effort is overall, but we do want to do something a little more formal in examining that. There's some other issues, such as we've often had difficulty getting someone with appropriate medical license to be able to sign off on vaccines that we might receive for flu clinics. We're trying to set up
a shared public health nurse, ideally between Dover and Sherborn.
Yes, right. Could be that person, or they're also looking into having someone who serves all four towns, because every town faces the difficulty of getting doctors who are willing to put their licenses on the line, or work for establishments that don't want their doctors undertaking that. Even though the risk is low, it's still a risk. And it really isn't something that we should be asking people to do for free, or really nominal amount. So number of activities going on. Oh, we've certainly been talking too about access to more folks who do housing inspections, even though Mark has done many in the past. If we get apartment buildings in town, it's clearly going to change the dynamics. Since our last housing inspection, it's usually at the request of tenants who want things examined. was 2015, so we don't have much call for it, but we might. And then through the shared services, certainly Needham has lots of experience with that. So these are some of the things that will be coming.
Personally, also coming from the town of Needham and Westwood, who have been in longstanding shared services agreements as a regionalized inspector, being part of this group will be extremely beneficial in terms of being able to have access to the latest training, the latest software to implement our department's overall day-to-day activities, increase efficiency, and for networking, essentially to elevate our standards across administration, community sanitation, disease control and prevention, environmental protection, food protection, housing, tobacco use, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so you've already benefited from that. Steve, you haven't seen it, but the rest of us have had a chance to see the new versions of the food inspection reports that are now using software rather than written forms. And the ability of Tom to attach photos right to the report has just been very helpful. He's always provided the photos on the side, but now it's just all in one file. It makes it much easier.
Goal is to increase the consistency of the way that all the surrounding towns operate. And basically these inspection reports using this new software called Food Code Pro, you're able to inspect an establishment in real time in the field. You're able to, as Daryl had mentioned, insert photos. Basically the report is indisputable, and it is just an overall great tool, available electronically, and it's just truly wonderful. The last update that I have is the status of our Board of Health regulations. That we are working on a town-wide codification process, essentially a renumbering of all of the regulations across all departments. And one of the observations that I had made when I started with the health department was that we did not have a merged document of all the regulations. So having one merged document with all of the criteria within the regulations listed is going to help when we compile all the regulations across departments for the town for the new numbering. So I was able to draft a merged regulation document for the board to look at and comment and review, and hopefully we will be able to move forward in finalizing the codification project townwide.
Okay, great.
That's it for me.
Anyone have any questions about any of those topics?
So the status of our regulations, that'll be circulated, I guess, at some point, or what are the plans?
So, departmental wise, we were waiting on finalizing critiques and comments that Ellen had been focusing on prior to me coming on board. So I am trying to make sure that we have all the regulations readily available in one place to publish on the website, and then to also supply to the town clerk's office so that she can compile that for the town-wide codification project, which is the renumbering of the regulation.
Right, so it's not going to be 8.02 anymore. It's going to be some wholly new number. So we'll have to get used to that at some point. But they're taking the text and running it through software apparently, and then it's reassigning.
In simpler terms, it's just reformatting.
Yeah. We hope it's just reformatting. So that will be part of the checking that has to go on too. Okay. Let's see, we had minutes for approval. Did people have a chance to look at it? So are we ready to do that now, or?
No, I did not see the minutes. Were those emailed to us?
Yeah, just today though, so.
Did email them as an attachment. If you're having trouble with the attachments, happy to provide that to you.
No, I'm off site today, so I'm not home, so did not see them.
Okay, so maybe
I
we'll
haven't had a chance to see them either, so, but I'll take a look.
Okay. All right, so we'll do that at the next meeting, which leads into our last item, which is next agenda items. Well, our next, we can't, I don't even think we can think about the July meeting. Hopefully we'll be coming up with some dates. So I'll send out dates. I'll check with, so Rebecca, I think you weren't here when we talked about having another meeting in June. We talked about the 18th or the 20th or something after that, but I'm trying to keep it from being too late in the month, just to align a little bit with what ZBA is deciding on Farm Road. And the point of our meeting is to finalize our decisions about Title V compliance for the septic system at the Farm Road Homes project. So I'll send out information about dates, and we'll see if by some miracle all 5 of us can pick one date that is agreeable to all. And Rebecca, I see your hand up, and I see your mouth moving, but we hear nothing. So we'll have to. We hear nothing. Sorry. So, okay. And Mark, are there many projects that you think are in the pipeline?
We have 3 septic plans waiting on conservation prior to review, so
it's possible those can
every-
fit in.
everyone's so anxious to get moving because usually at this time of year they're trying to get the house sold so they can get their school arrangements for the fall. So I would say, yeah, there's definitely a need for another meeting in between now and July.
Okay, so Rebecca is writing that. Please have the meeting before the 20th, which would only mean the 18th. I guess you're going on vacation, I'm guessing. So, okay. All right, good to know. All right. Any other items that people can think of offhand? All right. Any chance we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right. And again, thank you, Steve. Very nice to have you. And any further discussion on that? I'm going to guess no. So take it away.
Diana Hook, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Rebecca's waving goodbye. So I guess that's an aye. And Daryl Beardsley, aye. So thanks, everyone.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Have a good night.
Good night.